pulled Brandon in. Brandon is in the Discord. He is here.
I am here.
He is here. All right, I'm going to play the theme music. Exactly. That's exactly how it sounds. Hello. Welcome to Gimme Gimme the Ball, where armchair GMs discuss basketball. I am one of your hosts, Tyler. As always, I'm joined by my co-host, Brandon.
What's up?
And Adam.
Yo.
We're not missing a beat today, gentlemen. Guys, it is March today. I don't think we've recorded about 3 weeks, even though if you're watching this on YouTube, you just saw an upload last week. But today is March 19th, and we're getting kind of close to the end here, end of the season. It's been a very boring season with no drama, no trades, nothing spectacular that's changed the landscape of the NBA forever, no injuries. So yeah, I think I would love if we want to go around the hoop here, as they say in basketball land, and talk about, you know, how you're feeling about how this season's been for you. For me, I've watched very little games. I've caught up mainly through stat lines in the end. I think injuries are crazy, and I feel like 80-something games is too many games. And I feel like that's a hot take, and I'm sticking to it. I'm just kidding. It's not a hot take.
I don't think it's hot. I think I agree with you 100%.
It is not a hot take.
Well, it's a hot take, but I agree with it. Sorry, I didn't mean to douse its heat for everyone else.
It's not a hot take. I really
Definitely
don't.
not a silver take.
All right, Brandon, how do you feel about the season?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's the way it's shaping up the way a lot of seasons have shaped up for me, where it's like it starts and you're kind of interested because it's the new season, and then you kind of zone out a little bit for a while, and then the Christmas games come around and you're kind of locked back in, and then trade deadline, and there's a lot of ebb and flow, and I watch a lot of games, even kind of when I'm not as dialed in. But at least I watch my team, or teams, plural. But I do think the season's too long. I think it's a kind of an issue. I think there are too long a lulls in the season, that just you start to like lose momentum, and it all becomes about like, you know, you've got 20 games left, and you're kind of like, okay, well, who's going to get the eighth seed? That's kind of the like what you have to kind of focus on right now. In the West, we happen to have we're getting a really interesting
Battle for 10th.
last few weeks. Yeah, well, battle for all of it. In the East, it's just like the rap party. I don't know.
It's the
just
Cavs
like
Celtic show, and the rest of the gang just trailing along.
right. Oh, or the Bulls gonna get the 10 seed. Cool, you know. But I don't know. I do kind of think the season's too long though, and I think this was something brought up on the Bill Simmons podcast a couple weeks ago or something. But like the idea of pushing the season back to starting in December, and then and actually pushing it into July in that dead space where there's just like no sports happening except like baseball.
The XFL, bro.
Yeah, no, like I said, no sports happening except baseball. Except for all the gamblers out there, I'm sure you're loving XFL, but yeah. Anyway, I kind of agree with that. Now, I don't want this to be just like the NBA is stupid. I'm very excited for the playoffs, and I will be locked in when they start. But I'm in a little bit of a lull period right now, I think.
Yeah,
Still loving watching the Lakers, the Cavs.
Yeah, what a
Detroit
luxury
Pistons.
you must have
They're awesome.
to be able to zone out from the NBA and tune in, and your home team, is still the number one team in its conference. What a luxury.
Well, it's the first season it's ever happened, so yeah, so I'm definitely enjoying it.
Meanwhile, your other team has been floating between 2 and 4 for the majority of this latter half of the season.
Yeah, and I don't know if we're going to talk about this later. I think watch out for these Lakers in the playoffs.
Oh my god.
Oh yeah.
I'm starting to drink the Kool-Aid a bit. I really think, looking at the connection Luka has with Hayes, even with LeBron out right now.
Dude, you telling me Luka's a good player?
Oh, you know, I'm telling you, Jackson Hayes is a good player.
Oh, I see. I was gonna say, I was like, call Nico, bro. Tell him he made a mistake. He like he
Yeah,
didn't already
I
know.
mean, and also Connect has been lighting it up. I think that failed physical is maybe turned out to be a blessing in disguise. Even, but anyway, we can Adam. We're talking general season.
Yeah.
How are you feeling so
How you
far?
feeling? 2012 versus
Uh,
25.
I think it's been I would put it as this. I think outside of the Luca bombshell, I think this is business as usual of a season,
Oh.
which for me I love. There's a lot of good storylines to pay attention to. Some of my favorites are Detroit, maybe
Yes.
good question mark.
Yes.
And then like the Cavs obviously exploding past expectations. Another odd one I think is like what's going on in Golden State right now. Can Steph Curry have, his last dance, maybe make a push in the playoffs with his new pal Jimmy Butler? Um, and then like on the other side of it, outside of the like good teams, there are a lot of cool young players that I think are starting to like really take off. To be able to see like I think everyone was giving shit to Sar at the beginning of the season because he was playing
Mhm.
pretty bad, honestly. But he's kind of come into his own. I think he's had like 15 games or more with like double doubles over the last like 2 months or something like that. And just like averaging crazy numbers coming up like over the last few games. So cool to see him playing well. Would love to see him actually like thrive. Another one being Reisaker. I think he's also kind of shown that he can play better than what I think people thought when the draft happened and everyone was saying this was a weak class. So it's I think it's a nice time to be an NBA fan when it comes to the actual quality of basketball being played. Now, I definitely agree with y'all. I think the season is a little too long. There's some problems with motivation around certain teams. Like if you're Washington right now, obviously they're maybe having a little bit of fun now that they got what's his face, Middleton. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, like if you're a team that's tanking and you start tanking at the beginning of the season and you have to just watch your team lose 80 games, like
Yeah, 15 and
Yeah.
52 is a rough time.
Hey, come on, Jordan Poole just heat checked the Nuggets the other night.
I
Washington
mean,
is alive, baby. He shot that thing what, 32 feet? All at the buzzer.
Is that what makes Washington
Jordan
come
Poole.
alive?
Let's
All
go.
right. What
well, and that's the thing about that though is like I think Washington can have some good games, but when you're tanking, as a fan, it's hard to know which games to tune in for. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like
for
I'm not
sure.
gonna watch all of the games. I'll maybe watch like, you know, I think I'm a high number viewer. I'm probably in the 50, 60 range for my teams.
Yeah, yeah.
But like I still like even then you're gonna miss games where your team actually pops off and you only get to watch like the replays and stuff. So
Well, and also the other good thing about it too, I mean, is like the reason sometimes watching a bad baseball team is better than in some sports because like with baseball, like your team's gonna win 60 and lose 60, and it's kind of whatever they do with the rest that determines
yeah,
how good they are. uh, so you're
well,
gonna get and with the NBA now too, there's enough variance because there's so much talent
yep,
that some dude on Washington can just pop off one night
yep,
and they look like the best team in the East, and then the next night, they're back to just train wreck city.
hmm.
So it is because the league is so deep. You can turn on any game and be really impressed
yep.
by an individual or the way a team is playing in a specific game.
I wanted to ask, I might be just recency bias. Does this season feel like one of the most hit by injuries seasons of recent years?
I don't think so. I don't think in a way that drastically changes the landscape. There were some years where like a big player would go like any of the times that LeBron got hurt near the start of the playoffs. is always kind of crazy. I mean, obviously he's out right now.
Yeah,
but
LeBron's
like,
out right now is the thing.
yeah, but like having players go down before, like right before the playoffs, and this is the thing, it's not, we're not quite there yet. I think there's time for people to recover, but there have been some years where like an MVP candidate goes out with like a month to go and they're out for the season, you know, and we luckily, knock on wood, haven't really had that. Um, you know, everyone seems to be uh, relatively healthy in
Yeah,
terms of like the
yeah.
people that were actually going to compete in the first place. So
True. I guess it's like I feel like you see a lot of big names from this year. Like obviously you're gonna have
Well, you
Zion
see
and
a
a
lot of
couple.
Dallas Mavericks.
Well, yes, I
yeah,
mean mainly the list is Dallas Mavericks, but you saw like the obvious suspects, the Zion and Kawhi, being injured this season, and we'll get into that a little bit later on the Tyler was right segment of this pod.
Oh,
But
that's a
like I
good
feel,
segment.
I feel like you saw what Embiid's out now, right?
Yeah.
Davis is out. Obviously, Wemby went out a little bit ago. LeBron's out. Giannis was out earlier this season. Ja was out with injury like a bit for the season. I mean, it just when I think of like superstars or like the faces of the NBA facing injuries, it seemed like a lot. But I guess
Oh,
it's a lot of
that's a good
recency
point.
bias, right?
I guess you just don't have the like a thing where a team is firing on all cylinders and then suddenly like look at like
There's no like
Jamal
heartbreaking
Murray got injured
injuries,
a couple years ago.
yeah,
right?
You
There's no like just like
know?
complete
Or
stops and momentum injuries. It's just
even
unfortunate.
like the yeah, even like the Clay Thompson Steph injuries in like 1920.
yeah,
Like those were like this team went from like three-peat contenders to like a tanking team, and then kind of that helped them win the title a couple years later. But anyway, you don't have a lot of that happening. I will say with the Zion injury being a big one, the Wembanyama one's really a bummer, just
yeah.
because he's really starting to get going. But yeah, there's some. I feel like it's about normal in terms of like I don't know percentage wise to an average season, but I could be wrong on that.
I think to me, it's less about like the number of injuries and more about how coaches are managing the injuries. I think there's a lot more minor injuries that are, players are taking longer to quote unquote recover from, which makes sense, especially
Well,
if
in an 80
like the
game
season's
season,
longer.
have
Yeah,
it, if you have a chance to like take some time off and no one's gonna give you a mess about it,
yeah.
Right.
unless you're Joel Embiid, then
Well, and that's what I mean. Like it kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier, though. Is like I think most of the players that were injured, like Wemby, would have been cool. Like I said at the beginning of the season, I still think we could have been a like play-in team.
careful, Adam.
Um,
You're approaching Tyler's right segment of the podcast. You gotta save for later.
hey, I mean, we were almost there, and Wemby was gone for most of the season. So, uh,
If you believe that, I have a game of horseshoes to sell you. But go on.
uh, I mean, we're only like 6 games out, but
We'll get into
anyways,
it.
uh, you don't have anything as drastic. Like Embiid was like the Sixers. Yeah, they were always considered like top-ish of the East, but like I don't think anyone was really expecting them to be favorites. Um, you know, it's one of those things where like I'm thinking back to the season that like Derrick Rose got hurt, right? Like everyone's expecting
Yeah.
the Bulls to play really well, and like he's the star of the show, and he just goes down, and they literally limp through the playoffs. Um, so it's just one of those seasons that I think all the Luka's been in and out with some injuries. LeBron's been in and out with some injuries, but he's older.
But if
Um,
if SGA goes out tomorrow with an injury, then would you say,
Oh, that would
yeah,
be a disaster.
yeah? Then
yeah,
it would be
And
like,
I
oh
would
yeah, this
blame
is
you for it exclusively.
you should, because I am putting that juju out there. I wish no ill will upon any man, but in terms of gamesmanship, if there is someone to blame for an otherworldly force, I'll take it.
Okay, I like that.
We'll get to Tyler's corner soon, but that's some good perspective, because I lack perspective when it comes to NBA. A big central part of the original concept of this podcast, is that two gentlemen with perspective educate the one man who just talks based on what he just saw last week.
You're giving me a lot of credit there. I think Adam might be the reigning armchair GM, and we're just sort of scribes or whatever. But
Scones,
no,
yeah.
but I do think we should talk for a minute about this 76ers thing, because this has really gotten like pretty disastrous pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Um, and sadly, injury played a huge part into it. But this Embiid extension is also nuts that they gave him. I believe in the offseason leading up to this offseason. Now you've got Embiid, you've got Maxine, you've got George. I mean, this is a more disastrous big three situation
George
in
is out,
Brooklyn.
right now.
He's
He's
out now.
yeah. He was playing
Yeah,
until recently.
right. Doesn't he? He kind of has a classic like cut it down injury, right? That's like
Yeah.
you could probably play through if you were competing. But which George was really really bad this year in terms of what you expect from Paul George. Uh, Now also I think that team was just weird. You had is Embiid playing tonight? Uh, Going on, is Embiid going to be himself, which he really rarely got around to this year. It's just a team that's going to need to make some decisions really fast, and I wonder how big they will go
Dang
and kind of
Olympics,
what
am
they
I
need to
right?
do to get themselves competitive. Embiid to the Spurs. What do you guys think?
Eh. I mean,
I would personally not like that.
are the Spurs going to rename themselves the U.S. national team just for that
Right.
little bit of a
Uh,
push, I guess, or I guess the Cameroon national team, whatever he
yeah,
said.
yeah, or it could be France, Cameroon, or America. I think
Yeah,
are the three that you're
I mean
looking at.
France Wemby would have a field day, but other than that, no.
Hey, I mean, if Embiid were healthy, if you had Embiid and Wemby on the same team, that would be pretty nasty.
I feel like you
It,
could
it
say,
is a real bummer that this injury thing seems like it's going to be chronic and kind of unsolvable, at
I
least the way
mean,
it looks now.
yeah, there's not talks, but there's like sentiment online that says the dude just should retire, huh?
Yeah.
He's not going to, not after that extension. I'll tell you that right now.
Ah, the Kawhi, the
He's not
famous.
going to throw
Well,
that kind of money into the river.
speaking of insane contracts, the Bradley Beal situation I think is worse to me in a
That
way.
one's actually that one's actually funny because an injury wasn't involved.
Yeah.
He's just like the most like non-competitive basketball player I've probably ever seen. It's like, and obviously he is an immense talent and a great athlete. It's like if you took someone with like my competitive drive and put him on a basketball court. Like just kind of like, oh, when do I get paid again? All right, it's awful to watch.
Yeah. I forget who someone like coined a term that was like the get your bag Hall of Fame. Uh and he's definitely like in it where he's chilling on a team with an insane like 50 mil a year, and really not expected. I think there's still a hope that he can play well. He's still gonna give you what 15 points and can play the game, but he's definitely not the player that they bought. Um,
I watched that Suns Lakers game Sunday, and they are gross. Like
yeah,
they are just gross to watch. It is just lack of hustle, just like on defense, not knowing where to go on switches, on like help, on just like all. And this has been pointed out by probably more than enough people, but it's just you're. I don't know. I guess the basketball I've been watching has just been more competitive lately, and it's just kind of embarrassing. And I think to me, it's a little bit of a hit on Durant's career. Like this team that you're the head of is playing like this, and I know we've got Durant's not, quote unquote a leader and that sort of thing, but like, dude, you're like one of the top 15 players of all time,
yeah.
and you're on a team that looks like this. Like, I don't know.
Well,
You can't blame him for all of it, but like, you would think that there could be some sort of motivation happening because they're playing well below their talent level. That's the
yeah.
alarming thing.
Yeah, I was gonna say on the KD note, it's interesting to look back at his career, and I'm curious like over the next couple of years what's gonna happen. But like most of the franchises he played for, immediately exploded, like within his tenure, like exploded in a bad way, not got better.
Right, right. Well,
Like
and it's almost like his 2 championships were joining a team with a, top record of all time.
yeah, and even then, as soon as he like at the transition away from him had the whole Jordan Poole, Draymond Green, uh, fiasco go down there. So it's like almost as if, he's not the best for the team, uh, structure
Right.
wherever he goes. He's score his points, put his head down, and play business.
And
Now,
I just
Katie
don't
to the Spurs, though, Adam.
No,
Okay.
know.
I'm not a. I think
I don't think he's totally like I don't think he's useless or anything. I think he could. It's got to be in the right situation. I think he
yeah,
could do a lot for a team, but he can't be really the number. He can't be the number one guy anymore,
yeah,
and questionable about the number two guy. I mean, yeah, because of the health, because of the age, because of all the factors.
yeah.
Houston.
Houston would be an interesting fit. I do think. Well, and let me clarify my no for the Spurs. And it kind of goes the
Yeah.
same with Embiid. The contract, you're, in my opinion, for most stars, you're overpaying to get them. And for us right now, we can't afford to overpay because we have so many needs. Like, there's still a few things that we need to pick up around Wemby that if our contracts are tied up with him or whoever, like hypothetical situation, we can't build a sustainable team. It would literally be, and it goes back to the KD fiasco I was just talking about. Like, it would literally be by like a couple years of potential success, and then have to figure it all out again once
He leaves, or
KD decides
I
to
guess
leave or
retires.
retire, yeah,
Yeah.
whatever.
You
So,
guys, you want to know the funniest possible outcome
what's that?
is that I don't know what their record would have to be. OKC wins like almost as many games as Golden State, and then you get the KD press release. I'm
Oh
coming
yeah.
home.
That would
Uh-huh.
be pretty interesting. My next chapter, back to my original chapter.
Mhm.
It's just the exact same like LeBron pose in the chair.
Yep.
Uh, so yeah,
Speaking of
I'm coming home.
Houston, where did I fall asleep and then wake up in their second seed? Ooh. I
Defense wins championships.
I sorely wish John was in this conversation just so he can gloat, I guess. Maybe I don't. But that's
They play really well. They play really hard. How it translates to seeing the same team 7 straight times, I don't know. But on any given night, they can beat about anybody because they just have really good defense. They play really hard, and they got guys on the offensive side that can really go on a heater and do some damage.
well, good for them. Guys, before we jump into probably the next big discussion, which I think we're already kind of leaning into here, which is the postseason, the playoffs. Can we enter Tyler's?
Postseason.
Can we enter Tyler's corner?
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
go to Tyler's corner for a little bit.
This is the Tyler was right corner. Welcome, 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 guys. Just a few different topics I wanted to say that Tyler was right. We already briefly touched upon it earlier, but this was not an indictment on my feelings for the team. I was purely just put it out there as my prediction, and the season's not over, but I do think that this is how it's going to end up, that the Spurs will not make the play-in. Adam was very adamant that we would make the play-in this year. And I said, no, we're not making the play-in.
To clarify, and you keep saying that I was adamant that we would.
Yeah.
I was saying that would be a good target for us.
No, you said the playoffs would be a good target, but we would make the play-in.
I mean,
That's the that was the
I
statement.
can't explicitly remember the statement, and we probably have it recorded.
It is probably recorded.
But the only reason that we didn't make the play-in, we are 4 games behind.
Dude, like I said, this isn't about my feelings. This is just about Tyler was right.
Well, no, but that's you're. I just want to call out the technicality that our star generational talent went out with blood clots and we're still only 4 games out of the play.
And I'm just saying, if we put money on it, the money would go in one direction. No feelings behind it, no reason, no logic. That's just how the cookie crumbled. I don't take solace in that, except I am bragging a little bit. Now, the next segment of Tyler Was Right Corner. This one's a lot more subjective.
Moved right off it.
This one's very, very subjective. But I feel I said this to you on a group chat probably a week after the Luka trade. And I think I even mentioned on the podcast is that my first thing I said was the Mavericks fans are cursed. But then I moved into saying, no, the Mavericks are cursed, because I think after the Luka trade, like, one player went down. And since then, like, most of the team has gone down. I think they were down to at 1.8 players last week. So I want to say Tyler was right. Mavs are cursed. That's my thesis. There, I don't know what happened. Well, I mean, like, you all were saying things like you can't be cursed because you made a bad trade. I said that's true, but what if the bad trade was the origin of the curse? Like in ancient,
it's like someone standing at the top of a tall building, looking down and going like, "I'm going to jump off this. I'll be fine." And then their mangled body at the bottom, he's like, "I'm cursed."
Well, like, the thing is, like, assuming Luke, like, in the alternate universe, Luka doesn't get traded, all those other guys will still go down, no?
Maybe. I don't know.
Not necessarily. I mean,
well, I'm just saying. Then
you're talking butterfly. Yeah,
butterfly effect. Yeah, but like, I think Luka trade was the origin of the curse. I think Dirk Nowitzki's a witch. I think he's a wizard or a warlock or something, and he was really unhappy. And he said, "I'm just gonna ruin a lot of men's lives and just give them season-ending injuries back to back on my old alma mater team." So yeah,
isn't there a possibility Luka kind of can carry them through some of these stretches?
Well, I'm not saying they're cursed and they're going to lose. They're in the play-in right now at number 10. I'm saying they're cursed because their players are suffering at some points career or season-ending injuries. I think that's enough of a curse as it is, let alone your standings in the silly game of throwing balls. So I'm going to say the Mavs
trading Luka Doncic.
Yep. So I'm going to say Mavs are cursed. That was the Tyler Was Right of that. I'm trying to think if anything else on my list before we wrap it up and move it to.
Everyone's objecting to everything you're saying.
No, like, hey, Adam agreed with me that the Mavs are cursed. Adam said he would not argue that the Mavs are cursed.
Good stuff.
Did I make a prediction on if Pop was coming back? I think I said he would. So I think I was wrong.
I don't remember.
I think I said he would. I think you said you said it was a maybe. Neither of us said he wouldn't, and he didn't. So that's sad. Which, as I guess a brief aside, the last time we recorded, was that before Pop made a statement?
I don't recall.
Well, Pop made a statement. He's not coming back for the rest of the season. I saw the ESPN did a report saying that his recovery has been faster than usual for someone of his age. And he's still trying to work up the strength, potentially return to the sideline. I've talked to Adam offline about this. He says he thinks Pop should just wrap it up, like just stop being in such a high stress job situation, etc. Brandon, what do you think? Does Pop call it quits here?
I think if he does, it's because he just physically can't do the job.
Well, I think if he can but shouldn't, he will still do it, is what you're saying?
I think so. Like, I think if it's possible for him to do it, I think he will. I just think that you look at his background, military, all that. I think Pop is one of those guys who is just wired to do the thing, like no matter the obstacles in front of him.
Yeah.
And so I feel like if he can't, it's just because coming to terms with the fact that he just physically can't handle the job because of the stroke and maybe age. But if he thinks he can, I think he will come back. But doesn't seem to look great right from here, at least.
Well, all thoughts going that way. Well, thanks, guys, once again for joining me on an episode of Tyler Was Right Corner. Back to your regularly scheduled conversation. All right, postseason. Postseason. End of season into playoffs. I wish I had done more prep and pulled up our original predictions. But we made a Google Doc, didn't we? Is there a Google Doc for the predictions we did at the beginning of this podcast?
Yeah, I remember my pick was Thunder versus Celtics in the finals.
Let me see.
Can't remember who I. Let me see if I have it.
Yeah, I'm looking through
This
the
is
ones
great.
posted.
Great for the listeners at home while we
I have the draft.
Yes, Vamp, Adam, Vamp. Come up with something.
Well, okay, so I don't think any of us saw I don't think any of us saw the Spurs winning the whole thing, so that's good. I think that most of us assumed that OKC would be good, so that's good. I think that
Okay, I did find the doc, but we didn't actually record anything on the doc. We didn't write anything down.
okay.
So it would.
I
And
think
also,
I did. What is the doc called?
Pod with No Name Week 5. And this isn't even in an episode. This was before we named this podcast and started a new batch of episodes.
Okay, let's see.
Yeah, we had a lot of different predictions. So to the audience at home, you probably won't ever get to hear this. So I don't know why we're talking about this, but we made predictions before the season started. Who's going to be in the finals? Who's the MVP? Who's going to get the most regular season wins? Who will have the worst record out of last year's playoff teams? And I think that's going to actually be the Mavs, right? It's the Mavs or what?
Probably.
What's the Magic at? Let me see.
Magic are better.
Yeah, Magic better than Mavs. Yeah, they're 8 in the East. Which is that better?
I mean,
is that better than 10th in the West?
they technically have like the same winning percentage at the moment, but Orlando's trending stable and Dallas is losing most of their games.
Yeah, so. I see. Well, and then the last one is leading scorer, which I don't even know how. I guess we'd have to pull up like NBA.com. But yeah, so I mean, are y'all sticking with predictions? Who makes it to the finals? If you remember what those predictions are. I think everyone said OKC, right?
Yeah, assuming that my prediction was OKC and Boston, I'm still fairly confident.
So you think Celtics beat the Cavs? Don't make it to the end?
After seeing the Cavs, I have more what's the word?
Hope?
Well, I was gonna say doubt on the Celtics.
Oh, okay.
But I still think that they have the experience. They've been there before,
and they'll do it again.
But Cleveland is on fire, so
Brandon, do you remember who you chose? I think you chose the Cavs for the finals.
No, I don't think so. I think
you...
I had OKC and Boston, and I think I had Boston winning. And I'll stick with that. I still think it was a decent pick. I don't want to stray from my beginning of the season pick. I do think the Cavaliers were 8 times the team that I thought they would be this season. And I think that Cavs-Celtics series, assuming we get it, which I think the very low odds that we don't, I think that's going to be an awesome series, and I think either team could win. I think it really comes down to the health of a couple players, even in that kind of series. Where is Porzingis in? Are there any injuries on Cleveland's side? I really think little things like that could kind of alter that series. But I will say, the thing that to me, with teams that are going to be so close like that, and Cleveland will have home court advantage. And I think that's a really big deal in a high stakes playoff game like that. Cleveland, look, they've got to prove it. Boston has been there. They have done it. They've been there multiple times. So it's going to be tough, but I think from a talent capacity that either team could take that.
Well, I'm sure that's more reasoning and more success behind what I believe my prediction was for the finals, which was the Nuggets versus the Bucks. I believe that was my prediction.
I don't rule out either of those teams though.
Yeah,
That's
I
the
mean
thing about
Nuggets
the
still doing
Nuggets.
well. Nuggets still doing.
Yeah.
I mean, not as good as the Cavs or the Celtics or the Thunder, but they're doing fine.
I think Giannis or Jokic on a tear, like getting
Hey,
super
let's
hot
be careful about the word
at the
tear
right
in professional
moment.
basketball, Brandon.
Yeah, no, no,
No
yeah,
juju.
that's a good point.
No juju.
But but yeah, I think both those guys could, surprise people in the playoffs. Denver's got some issues, uh, and
When do they not?
but I also have confidence they've got a good coach and they could at least patchwork some of them before the postseason starts. And the Bucks are also have a lot of issues, but
Mhm.
those two guys, I still have a lot of faith in them. I don't know.
You kind of root for the big men, these
Well, and
quiet heroes.
I think this is one of the reasons that I'm excited for this playoffs is you have a lot of newer faces that
Mhm.
like you this is a perfect storm for some crazy upsets. Um like
Definitely.
Oklahoma City, for example, and I still think that, I mean, they're fantastic, so I don't really necessarily see this happening. But Oklahoma City has not had great success in the playoffs anytime recently. So
Right.
being the favorites, there's a big target painted on their back. Like there are going to be teams that are built specifically to counter their gameplay style. And not to I don't want to play into the media circus that is calling uh Shy a free throw merchant, but they do tend to go a little bit more physical as the playoffs
Right.
go on. The refs kind of swallow their whistles and let the guys play through it. And in a 7 game series, you gotta make sure that your game plan is consistent enough to win. So um, it's going to be really
Absolutely.
interesting to see some of these teams find their playoff identity. Rockets would be another example of that. I was going to say that earlier in the pod. The Rockets are playing great right now, but they don't have a lot of talent that I think translates to a 7 game series. Uh, I think they're succeeding really well right now and just like being explosive, like wherever they play. So if there's a team that's designed a game plan to like counter their style or get a little bit under their skin, you might see a different team in the playoffs. So um,
For
that's kind of
sure.
my take.
I mean, the
You know
playoff.
the matchup I've really circled because I think it's going to be interesting as hell. If we assuming none of the they don't shift around, Knicks Pistons.
Ooh, yeah,
That to me is a crazy interesting matchup, and I think the Knicks will win, but I don't know the way
I don't
Detroit's playing right
know.
now. Also, the way you look at, all those Detroit guys are so they just like don't care. They're in your face. They're
They're
like talking
scrappy.
shit.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're scrappy, and you got guys like that. I mean, look, the Knicks are also tough, but I think that's going to be a really interesting series. I also I just don't trust these Thibodeau teams, and
yeah,
I hope they prove me wrong. But like someone or multiple people always break down when it matters because he's playing them 48 minutes a game.
yeah,
So like I don't know. I feel like the combination of those two things and how hot and kind of inspired Detroit is. Plus, you get a little bit of a like the Knicks kind of big boyed the early Cavs with
hmm,
Bickerstaff as the coach. You get maybe a little bit of a revenge angle from Bickerstaff there playing the Knicks. I don't know. It's just really interesting to me.
yeah, definitely. And then I feel like there's a couple like unknowns in just like how they're gonna perform. The Pacers, a quiet contender, floating in that middle of the pack in the East. Um,
They
I
just
think,
always play the Bucks in the playoffs.
yeah,
It's just like written in stone at this point.
yeah.
Uh,
Uh, I mean, and then you have the like Memphis Grizzlies doing what they do best. They're winning games and playing well, but once again hasn't
Lakers,
translated to the playoffs. So
right? Lakers Grizzlies will be a fun one too. If now those teams that could definitely wobble around. That's a really tight West.
yep,
But that would be those teams have
Well,
some history, and that could be a fun series. Nuggets Warriors too. I mean, things
yeah.
are looking pretty good
yeah, but
right now.
guys,
Now I know some more things will move around,
yeah,
but
guys, I know we love where we are right now, talking about the best of the West. But I think we need to pour one out for the first team eliminated from playoff contention that happened last week.
Mm,
That's right, everybody's favorite New Orleans Pelicans. Season
mm.
ended. Season ended
what are
the second week of
I
March.
wonder the odds at the beginning of this season? If you were to tell me the Pelicans will be eliminated before the Wizards, that would have blown my mind.
I think
The
the only
Pelicans
thing
have,
that played into that is the strength of the West versus the East, though.
yeah, that's a very good
I like you
point,
said
but.
only as if like that's not a giant factor.
Well, the thing is, New Orleans. I don't. Is it a coaching thing? That team has talent. It's
Yeah.
just
I think it's a
it's
trans
crazy
fat
that
kind of
there
thing.
is. And I know Zion was hurt for a stretch. They traded Ingram, who got the bag from Toronto for God knows why. But you would just I just expect a little more from New Orleans, and I don't think Zion's going to be on that team next year.
I think for me, I think it's interesting because they haven't really had a point guard to play
Yeah.
through. So like it's a situation where they have a bunch of talent, but like having an inconsistent star and
Yeah.
then shipping out BI at the trade deadline, like it- it's hard to say that they were really set up for success once DeJounte went down and
Yeah.
um you know, I didn't think they would be this bad, but um it's just
To me,
it's hard to count them out.
Do you think Zion's out after this, Adam?
I think it I don't know. He hasn't shown enough. Like I haven't seen him interact with the media enough to kind of get a feel about what his mindset is. There's plenty of players that are like, "Get my money, get my bag," and like New Orleans gonna be the place for that. But I don't know. It really depends on uh, just. I mean, obviously it depends on like his mindset, but it's hard to see him wanting to win and staying in New Orleans. Um, I don't know. I don't know how much that's going to weigh on him in particular, and we've seen it.
Hey,
Crazy
let's be
things happen
careful about the
before.
word way around Zion, dude. Come on.
uh, we've had some crazy scenarios before where talent sweeps in because they see a guy who they think can win, but at this point, he hasn't even really earned his like his. I almost said weight, but his
What did I just say?
he hasn't really earned the swagger that comes with being a star. So I don't know how much gravity he actually has when it comes to bringing other folks in.
I
so
see.
I think it's interesting to talk about what teams do we like Zion on, because I see one that I think it'd be pretty alluring for them.
Don't say the Spurs.
Because no, no, no. Well, the same state though. It's a guy that thinks defense wins championships and really values a big man who's injury prone. As
Mm-hmm.
opposed to his star forward who's less injury prone. No, I'm just kidding. It would be very funny if the Mavericks got Zion though. That's my only point. Then they would just have 12 centers, and
Yeah.
I don't
And
know.
only one of
Here's
them
my
healthy.
Right. Here's my thing about the Mavs, though. If that team would have stayed healthy, that would have been an interesting playoff
Yeah.
team with all the size they had, and if Kyrie were running things, and um, it's at least a very fun playoff team. Where would you guys like to see Zion go? I'm having a hard time putting it together. I mean, I think Miami makes a lot of sense since
Uh,
they're just kind of in nowhere land right now.
Hear me out. LA.
the Clippers?
No.
Oh.
The beloved Lakers, bro. Just stack all of these big name talents over the last 5 years. Give me your whole top 5 draft class from the last like 6 drafts, right there, LA.
Well, see the Clippers now. The Clippers are kind of interesting because you would need Zubats out there because Zion doesn't really go up for rebounds, even though he's 400 feet tall. So you'd have Zubats and he could handle the rebounds, and then Zion could, just do the other stuff.
Well, I was actually going to suggest, and this is interesting. I'd love to hear our sometimes guest John's thoughts on this, but Zion for Julius Randle. Send him to
Ooh.
Minnesota. Have him play that role of like the explosive four next
Ooh.
to Rudy Gobert. Have Anthony
That's
Edwards cooking.
that's a spicy meatball right there. I like that.
Now, what do you think
Well, here's
John
the
would
thing
say?
though that I gotta see. If Julius Randle keeps playing like this for Minnesota,
Yeah,
do I want to keep him around?
yeah.
But we'll see if it lasts. But the
A-
most hot or cold guy in the NBA. I
Well,
think that's interesting though. I like that.
Adam,
I
what do
mean,
you think John would say to
Anthony
that?
Zion.
I think that he would say, why is Julius Randle considered in that trade more than just like getting the contract off of Minnesota? They'd have to give up someone else with Julius Randle to make that trade worthwhile. But
Hmm.
I think for me, I don't know. It's an interesting. Obviously, I think there's a little bit more risk uh, to taking on um, Zion's contract, but Julius Randle's 30. Like he's not really the player he once was. He's a solid piece. Don't get me wrong, but it'd be curious to see how it weighs up in terms of like a straight up swap for those two guys. Curious to see
To me,
how the
yeah, to me, it's got to be a team in nowhere land almost. Like
mm,
that would be my prediction anyway. Like Sacramento,
yeah. Well,
like
that's
just
where I almost disagree because I feel like you have a few teams, and this is where I don't know how much Zion would go for on the market. Like Luka
sure.
messed up my brain with his situation. You know, you can have someone just go for a bag of chips basically. So if
Right.
Zion is considered like a risk and you're just looking for that third piece at that point, like Zion being the third guy on your team, you have and Gobert being the two like faces, and then you put uh Zion in behind them. Like I think he could be a super valuable third piece, and then he's not even required to be the focal point of the offense or anything like that. He's someone that gets his 25 minutes a game, stays healthy, and plays out of his mind when he's on the court, you know?
My biggest thing with Minnesota, because in theory, I think I'd agree. Do you think they would take on A, the risk of Zion, but B, just kind of the skill set of Zion when they're paying Rudy Gobert what they're paying him?
I think for me, I would. If I was them,
Yeah.
I would. And the reason is Anthony Edwards, based off of his personality, I don't think he's guaranteed to stay in Minnesota. I think, he's definitely seems like the kind of guy that would shop it around uh
Sure.
if things were to get bad. But you could get in a situation where if Zion starts getting healthy and playing more consistently, Anthony Edwards and Zion is a crazy headliner. Like that's enough that I think
Absolutely.
you could attract other talent after Gobert. Like his contract dies, see if you can see if you can get pretty deep in the playoffs with them, with him. But see what happens after. I think you can start
Yeah.
looking at like other talent, maybe even ship
And,
out Gobert for something else.
well, sure. But even thinking about it with him, I mean, you've got, yeah, I think the rim protection of Gobert, and now look, they probably wouldn't be on the floor together like a ton, but like
Yeah.
that allows Zion, that opens Zion up to doing a lot of other different stuff. I think that could be interesting.
Well, and then he's even, and this is where I don't know how much he's going for on the market, but he's getting spelled by Naz Reid, who's I think an awesome, stretch four kind of guy. Anyways, so
Yeah,
Zion
he's
plays
awesome.
25 minutes a night, Naz Reid plays like 20 minutes a night. You have that position like completely filled up.
Definitely. Yeah, that's really interesting. It would have to be a situation though, because this is the other thing. We know for a fact that Minnesota is not like a big spender by any means,
Yeah.
or at least just they've shelled out big contracts, but like them dumping Cat after beating Denver in the playoffs was a pretty wild move.
Yeah.
Uh, Now it seems like it's starting to come together a little bit, at least with the pieces they have. But that'd be fascinating if Zion played on that team. That'd be must-watch television for sure. By the way, Adam, I wanted to correct something that you said there. You said Luka Doncic got traded for a bag of chips, but I want you to know it's really important to know that that bag of chips played defense,
Yes.
and that
Yes.
bag of chips didn't drink beer.
And what do we know about
So
defense? What have
just a couple really important things to know.
Yeah.
we
That's
learned
true.
about defense? It wins games.
Yep.
Defense wins games. It wins championships.
Well, and I don't mean to also discredit the pieces that did move in that trade. Anthony
Oh,
Davis,
you can discredit them.
obviously. But even better, you got Christie, right? Like he's the piece of that, and he's
Yeah.
sitting at what on their 8-player squad. He's sitting on the second string. Oh, what? Crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
Is
It's
Davis back
not.
from the G League yet? Which is a wild sentence to say.
Talk about things we weren't planning on saying in this
Yeah.
season.
Yeah,
Um,
imagine telling.
he's basically doing like a rehab assignment, right?
Imagine
I mean,
2024 Adam and Brandon hear that sentence out loud.
I know it's Anthony Davis back from the G League. If you would
Oh,
have said that, I would have said like, well, he knew that to truly unlock Bronny, he needed a quality big in there.
oh, dude, you're
And
right,
so
dude. He
that's what I
needed,
would have thought. If you told me that, I would have been like, Davis was just like, whatever, I'm going down to the G League to help Bronny for a while.
dude, James Jr., man. He needs his number two.
Yeah.
And then you would also follow up by saying James and his trusty partner Doncic, and the 2024 Adam and Brandon would probably think exactly what we thought when we heard the news in the first place, that it's a lie. That's a trick.
I do want to call out that the Mavericks G League affiliate team is called the Texas Legends,
Yep, it's true.
which I absolutely terrible name for a team. I don't know. You could do anything you want. Why are you the Texas Legends?
It's like the fake. That's like
Legendary.
the name of the like fake like all-time all-star team in like 2K or something.
Yeah,
Like it's the Legends, right?
it sounds like
Yeah.
a little league, like something that like 12-year-olds would be playing on.
That's funny. Yeah, I don't think the G League probably puts enough effort into their naming.
Yeah, the San Antonio Spurs' G League team is the Spurs. So
You know what?
there you go.
I like it. I respect it. What else do you need?
There you go. Well, boys, we have just a few minutes left here. I realize we haven't had our usual segment here, which is the Homer Corner. Does anyone have any Homerisms they want to go over? Any Spurs/Cavs takes or updates?
I
Steph
got one.
Castle, Rookie of the Year.
Really, you think he's gonna get it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ooh, okay. I like
And
that.
Brandon.
Just gonna say, look, the Cavs might very well, come up short against Boston. I just want to say to the NBA world, it's not, it's not because they just lost to the Magic. I feel like people are making such a big deal out of this recent loss to the Magic, capping a 16-game winning streak because the Magic like played well for a change. And I'm happy for them. But look, if Cleveland falls up short, it's not going to be because they lost to the Magic. And people are just like, oh well, DeAndre Hunter missed that last minute second three. Yes, he did. It's variation that happens sometimes. We're playing 80 some games. Anyway, that's pretty much it.
Is that your
Uh,
soapbox?
I want to throw in one other piece of Homer news.
All right.
Spurs are currently up 30 points against the Knicks in the second quarter. So
Oh, the NBA is weird, dude.
I'm telling you, Tyler, you keep writing us out of this play-in.
You know, I will gladly eat my words, and I'll do a retraction piece if we actually make it in the play. And I'll do.
Will that be called the Tyler Sucks Corner?
No, it's Tyler was wrong. Tyler was wrong Avenue. It's just a road that goes right through. Tyler was wrong Ave. Well, guys, thanks for Homer Corner. And then I think we can wrap it up. Adam kind of touched upon it. Steph Castle for Rookie of the Year. Accolades. What do we think? And I know we're not super close yet, but close enough to start thinking who's winning what. What are we thinking for DPOY? You know, Wemby can't win it, which seems illegal, but you know, here we are.
Yeah, give it to someone else. He'll win the rest of them.
Rudy Gobert.
Isn't that what they said last year?
Yeah. Give it to Rudy again, bro, for no reason. Well, any strong thoughts for MVP? Can't really think about Finals MVP because we don't even know who's going to be in the playoffs. But like,
I'm comparing a couple people because I don't know if I'm crazy or not.
Is Shai MVP?
Lukewarm take. Jokic deserves it over Shai.
Okay.
Jokic is a more necessary piece. He is more valuable to that team than Shai is to the Thunder. The Thunder is well-rounded and good. The Nuggets would not be where they are today if not for Jokic this season. He has gotten them through so many games.
I dig it.
Yeah. No, I think I agree with you there. But also I kind of am okay with him giving it to Shea only because Jokic has won it 3 times. It's almost becoming the LeBron thing. It's just like, how did LeBron only win that many MVPs? It's like, well, because it gets like kind of boring after a while. But like B, when there's some like new superstar that becomes like one of the dominant players in the league, you feel like you want to give that player their flowers, you know?
Yeah.
He does truly have Shea, and I truly know what I dislike about players when they play one of my teams, because that's what I'm just like, oh, fuck this guy. But pardon my French. But yeah, he does a lot of foul baiting that is pretty frustrating.
Welcome to watching any James Harden game ever for the last 10 years.
Well, sure.
He's gotten better. I will say.
No, he's Adam. I think you mispronounced older.
Okay, I feel like Shea's approval rating is so much higher than Harden's ever was, though.
Yeah. Well, right? You see, Shea's team is number 1 and in contention for the finals and playoffs. Brandon, I think. I think that's a strong distinction.
Listen, I feel like I'm taking up the ghost of John here, but that Rockets team, closest thing to beating that Golden State team when they had KD. Just saying.
He's not dead.
Yep.
The ghost
not dead. By the way, I'm going to politely disagree. I do think if it were me, I would probably give Rookie of the Year to Amen Thompson.
Interesting.
Now, look, I think there's a minute. I think Amen's played less minutes for sure than Castle.
Well, we'll see how the last 20 games go, Brandon. We'll see.
All right.
We'll see. I mean, I don't care, honestly. As soon as Wemby was out and then Fox soon after him, I stopped thinking of accolades and started thinking about 2026, baby, 25-26. Fade for flag or whatever, you know? He's injured still, right?
I don't remember. I thought I saw him playing this weekend, but it might have been highlights.
Oh, nice. Well, guys, it's been a rousing discussion. Hour flew by fast. I feel like we talked about nothing and everything all at the same time. To the audience at home, I want you to think about your accolades, audience. Think about who deserves what. Think about players. Think about who's winning. I don't even know what I'm saying, honestly.
Think about Draymond Green winning Defensive Player of the Year again.
Yeah. Think about all these things that we talked about and more. I've been one of your hosts, Gimme Gimme the Ball. I'm Tyler. We have, of course, Brandon.
Oh.
And Adam.
Hey.
Thank you. And have a good morrow, basketball lovers.